Chapter 48 to 49, New Adventure. Day and night. Day and night. This cycle repeated itself over and over again. And so another 18 months passed. All three of them have made progress again. After the first 4 months, the two giants had an increase in their hockey level. They were no longer beginners at all. They had reached the intermediate stage. They were now able to wrap weapons and external objects with their armament hockey as well. There was also an improvement in their observations hockey. They could now use all sorts of things like sensing strength, sensing intent, and sensing emotions. One thing Pride has noticed: it's still relatively easy to get from the beginner level to the intermediate level. The real challenge is the progression to the advanced level. It requires a lot of talent and patience. Most people don't even manage to do that in their whole life. That is an indication of how hard it is. Pride rejoiced when both of them reached the intermediate stage. It still wouldn't be a problem for him to fight one of them. But if he were to compete with both of them at the same time, it would be a problem even for him. In the beginning, Pride was even backed into a corner in their fights. He had to push himself very hard. But with every day that passed, it became easier for him. The two giants were not as talented as he was. He got better and better with each challenge. Each day he felt his strength grow, even more than the time he spent on his nightly workouts. But even he could not get the maximum out of it. Even if the giants could, they would not have killed Pride. And that, too, was a solid part that prevented him from blooming as quickly as he could. But he had no time pressure right now, so he didn't mind going a bit slower. They have been training and fighting like crazy for the past 14 months. The two giants were able to increase their strength even more, but not the level of their hockey or anything like that. It was just an increase in their power and an increase in the duration and range of their hockey. They even became more resistant to Conqueror's hockey. After each of their sparring sessions, Pride would use it on them over and over again for 2 hours. One reason for this was the strengthening of their willpower and endurance. But Pride also wanted to improve his Conqueror's hockey. The giants were naturally disappointed that they could not use such a cool ability. Pride's progress has been tremendous as well. For one, he improved all of his gravity abilities. Their effect has been greatly enhanced, and their range has been increased. Its attraction, repulsion, and suppression powers, which previously covered a 15-meter radius, have been increased by 5 meters. It can now affect 20 meters. His swordsmanship and hockey also improved tremendously. The sun shone only partially over Little Garden. The beautiful blue sky, which was almost completely covered with clouds, prevented the sun from shining through. Far up in the sky, calls of flying animals could be heard repeatedly. 3 people are once again gathered around a campfire. They are enjoying their last meal together. Munch, munch. Sigh, are you sure you want to go after this? Broggy laughed. He looked at Dory and then at Pride. The training session is over. We have to decide who wins. The volcano will soon erupt. Stay and watch if you want. HHHH. Pride simply rolled his eyes. I'd better be on my way. HHA. You sure? I'll be the one to defeat this idiot, laughed Dory. Did you just call me an idiot? And he pressed his head against Dory's. Heh. Yeah, and now what? Pride frowned. Shut up and eat, he said in annoyance. When the yelping finally ceased, he paused. Ding. Name. Pride. Age 20 years old. The template Shanks extraction 71%. Abilities Master Swordsman. At this level, the swordsman is able to swing the sword with such force and speed that it creates a strong wind in the form of a compressed air projectile. This allows the swordsman to slash from a great distance. This is called a flying slash. The swordsman is also able to cut through the elements such as fire, lightning, water, etc. Observations Hockey, Intermediate Stage. Armament Hockey, Advanced Stage. Conqueror's Hockey, Advanced Stage. Devil Fruit, Zushi Zushi no Mi, Progress 68%. Abilities: Gravity Suppression, Gravity Alleviation, Gravity Repulsion, Gravity Attraction, Gravity Alteration, Gravity Domain, Gravity Coating, Flight, Gravity Slash, similar to a flying slash. However, during the physical impact, the touched subject will be under the influence of gravitational forces, with the result of being squeezed. Pride's gaze was on the invisible screen. More and more thoughts whirled through his head. Size. I developed really well, if I may say so. During this time, I also learned the 2 advanced hockey types. Rayleigh was right in what he had said to me back then. You shouldn't have a go at flying when you're still a crawler. And how right he was. Metaphorically speaking, I just started running. Emission was an easier learning process for Pride. When Shank's memories on the subject came up, it was relatively easy for him to do the application. He knew how to make the hockey flow fluidly through the body and emit it from one point. Indeed, internal destruction is the highest form, and only a few people have mastered it. Since he had already mastered gravity coding, and both produced roughly the same result, the process was not as difficult for him. This made it easier for him to experiment and to progress at a faster rate, in order to obtain the said memory more quickly. Conqueror's haki. Pride was truly aware. Shanks was a monster in this regard. It was enormous. What sort of will did he possess? Pride's was almost at Roger and Xebec's level, but there was still room for improvement. He was sure that Shanks, at his best, had a Conqueror's haki just as strong, if not stronger. But even though Pride had reached the advanced stage, the only thing that had changed was that his output had increased tremendously in terms of range and power. He was still unable to coat himself with Conqueror's haki. As all things begin, so must all end. So it was here. When Pride had finished his meal, he was ready for his departure. Armed with his sword and backpack, he floated his boat back to the shore. The two giants accompanied him to say goodbye. Pride, it was really a nice time with you. We have learned a lot from you. I hope our paths cross again sometime, Dory said as the three of them stood on the shore. Dory has a point. It was a really nice time. You should have stayed with us. The volcano is even on the verge of eruption. You can still change your mind, HHH. Broggy laughed. Pride's response was to lower himself and the boat into the water. HHHA. Dory, Broggy. It was nice to meet you, but I'll pass. And grinned wickedly. I have a feeling your battle will be a long one. If in 40 years or so you meet a pirate crew with a straw-hatted captain, please provoke him for me, and then beat the crap out of them. But don't kill them. They are good people. The two giants were very confused by this request. What Pride meant by it, they didn't know. In about 40 years? Asked Dory with arched eyebrows. Just promise me, Pride sighed. HHH. Don't worry. If that really happens, we'll kick his ass. Broggy shouted, laughing. It was a farewell without melancholy, and it was not a lasting one either. Second by second, the boat of Pride moved away. A few minutes passed and Little Garden was just a vague outline in the distance. Luffy, this will either help you in the future when you realize how weak you and your crew really are, or it will seal your fate forever. And so Pride sailed away, to seek a new adventure. Several days passed in beautiful weather. The sun shone and the sea was very calm. There was only a murmur. Pride was now able to sleep at sea. He no longer needed to be alert and watch out for danger. His observations haki had become so developed that he could perceive danger while he slept. Shtan emha shtan. Pride opened his eyes repeatedly. Yawn. Have I fallen asleep again? Huh. It looks like there is land in sight. Pride could see an island from afar, even if only dimly. But the distance was still too great to speculate which island it was. I've been in Little Garden for more than 3 years. I wonder, what happened on the seas? Big Mom. That hag must have given birth to Katakuri and many other children. Another half-hour passed. There were several ships on shore. It was a combination of things. There were pirate ships, marine ships, and also merchant ships anchored. Everywhere were people strutting around in shorts or bikinis, mostly scarcely dressed. When some of them saw a small boat approaching, they were surprised. What on earth was a small boat doing out on the sea? Above all, it was moving at a snail's pace. How could it not have been wrecked by a storm? After all, it is well known that storms and such things are commonplace in paradise. Look, Clara. There's only one person in there. Unless I'm wrong, it has to be a man. I wonder, is he hot? A few minutes later. Thud. And how hot he is. Hearts formed in some women's eyes seeing him. The men, who were on the scene as well, were literally out of their minds with rage. The women, for whose attention they had to fight, did not pay any attention to them anymore, even though most of them had some kind of understanding for it. After anchoring his boat, the man walked toward the crowd. He was not too tall, but he was not too short either. For many people, he was of the optimal height. He moved at a height of a little over 2 meters. How he dressed and looked tended to cause a stir. He was dressed in long black pants. An elegant sword was tied around it. Over it, he wore only a black cloak. Underneath it, he was naked. His extremely well-toned body was visible to everyone. His body resembled that of a Greek god. His tan skin added a certain elegance to it. He had a short, full beard, crystal blue eyes, and medium-long black hair. Pride noticed that everyone was staring at him. He had no idea why. From the moment of his landing until now, he has been in a state of deep thought. He had become the main attraction without realizing it. This time Pride sailed aimlessly. He wanted to see where the journey would lead him. Since he had been asleep most of the time until his arrival, the island itself was not really in his focus. After all, he was going to find out exactly where he was as soon as he arrived. For a brief moment, he focused his attention on the crowd. Soon after, he began to look around him. Palms are all over the place. People in bikinis and skimpy outfits. Signs for hotels. Oh, this has got to be Kyuka Island. That was the place where Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week went on vacation in the anime. As far as I know, the island's architecture features a lot of balconies and swimming pools. Then Pride looked to the center of the area, exactly as it is described in some forums. On the mountain in the middle of the island, There is a large tree with an umbrella-shaped cover. I also detect several signals from people coming from the building above. Did you really sail here, all alone on the boat? The female voice snapped pride out of his thoughts. A quick glance to the right was all it took. The woman was wearing a red bathing suit. It accentuated her voluptuous body. With this sight, she had already wrapped many men around her finger. So far, no one could resist her. Her long black hair fluttered in the breeze. Her emerald green eyes gazed enthusiastically at the stranger. What does she want from me? Yes, I am. Could you please tell me where the best restaurant is around here? She began to smile. If you want, I can take you there. We can eat together and get to know each other better. Pride, with many thoughts running through his head, turned his attention to the lady. No, thanks. Just showing me the way will be enough. I would be very grateful to you for that. Nanny. The male spectators were dumbfounded. They, who would sacrifice so much to keep this beautiful lady company, had to watch her being dumped? Yeah, I'll just... The woman, not expecting a no, was shocked. Now she wanted him even more. But as hot as he was, there was also something wild and dangerous about him. She didn't want to throw herself at him any more than she already had. What if he gets violent? If you go a few hundred meters straight ahead, then you'll get to the town. There's a street there that's basically just full of restaurants and pubs. They're all pretty great, actually. Thanks a lot. A moment of silence followed. All those present looked after him. Did he really just reject her? Looks like it. Sigh, what I would have given to be in his place. Pride, walking in the recommended direction, sighed. I would have loved to meet her and spend a night with her. I haven't had sex in a long time either. But I know that right now I just can't get involved with women or in sexual adventures. As soon as I try to give in to the temptation, everything just gets more complicated. Of course, this does not always happen. But how many of us have paid too much attention to a woman and lost sight of the more important things in life? Especially since I'm living in a time that's teeming with strong pirates. And there are a lot of people out there who are stronger than me. So no, I can't afford to get tempted like that right now. Even though it's hard as hell. One has to set priorities. One day I'll find the time for that as well. A lot of resounding laughter tore him out of his thoughts. A glance up was all that was necessary. Dreams come true. He smiled as he read those initials on a hanging sign. Let's see if that's true.